ready? Okay, Revelations chapter 4. Revelations chapter 4. We'll look at this. Maybe we might get into that. I'm not sure. Revelations chapter 4. So far, we have studied the 7 churches. The word church is mentioned some 19 times so far in the first couple of chapters of Revelations. Revelations 1, 2, and 3, the church is mentioned 19 times. Now, I don't know if we're going to get real deep into chapter 4 or not tonight. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about is that it used to be known on Sand Mountain as premillennial, postmillennial, and amillennial. It's not like that any longer. There is a new belief. You have pre, mid, and post millennials. The premillennials are the ones that believe that the church is going to be taken before the rapture comes. Postmillennials believe they're going to go through the rapture, and then the mid-millennials thinks that we're going to go through the first 3.5 years, be pulled up, and then not be here for the last 3.5 years. So those are the 3 new views. Amillennials is kind of faded away. They're not. Amillennial believe, I think it's just he's going to come back, separate goat, sheep, and that's it. No millennial, no nothing. It's just we poured up, and that's it. And that's faded away. Now it's pre, mid, and post are the millennials. To me, it's not. I've never really been that big of a deal on any of them. I believe the Lord's coming back, and if you believe that, then you the right belief. But people, like I say, will fight you tooth and nail over it. And on a class I'm teaching on Monday nights, I want to try to avoid this subject. I hope that we run out of time before we get to, because all the people in the class are preachers. I'm like, man, I don't want to wind up in a barroom fight or something. I have to fight my way out of there. So, but what we're really looking at is chapter 4. Now, I'm premillennial. Okay? It's the way I was raised. Everybody is either, we're going to go pre, mid, post, or off. You're basically one of those beliefs by the way you were raised, what Dad and Mom taught you. That's basically, why are you a Democrat or Republican? That's what Mom and Dad was. Why were they? That's what their Mom and Dad was. And I always think, well, I'm glad Mom and Dad wasn't a bootlegger. I'd make, But I think we need to get to a point in our mind, we need to study this on our own and not think what Mom and Dad. Because a lot of people base their beliefs on traditions. They do. So we're going to look at this on our own standards, not what Mom and Dad thinks. Okay?
I have a question.
Go.
Are you saying you're premillennial or pre-trib?
I'm premillennial. I believe that the church is going to be pulled out. We're not going to go through the trib. Now, a lot of people think premillennial and pre-trib are the same. I'm premillennial. We are not going to go through the tribulations, but Jesus Christ is going to come back. He's going to set up 1,000-year reign, earthly kingdom, the whole 9 yards. That's what I believe. But I got a friend of mine at Scottsboro said he is a tailgate millennial. I said, what's that? He said, you ever rode back of a truck? I said, yeah. He said, where do you ride at, tailgate or the front? He's a cab millennial. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you ever rode in the back pickup truck? I was like, yeah. He said, where do you sit closest to? I said, it's the cab. He said, why don't you sit at the tailgate? I said, afraid of it. He said, I'm cab millennial. He said, I want to sit as close to the cross as I can. I ain't sitting next to the tailgate. So, but people will fight you over this. I don't, to be honest, I don't, if you're a follower, you're going to heaven. People say, I'm going to go, one day at a time. But people like to study this. My dad loved to study it. I asked him a few questions today. And he basically looked at me like, you don't already know that? How long have you heard me preach? How long have you been listening to me preach? So, anyway, premillennial. Some people believe there is a mid-millennial. Some people believe we're going to go through the first 3.5 years. If you believe that, some people think we're going to go through the tribulation. I don't believe that because he is going to keep us from the hour of tribulation. Now, is the tribulation, is the rapture of the church. It's been mentioned 19 times before we get to chapter 4. The next time you hear the word or the word church is mentioned is going to be at the end of Revelation. So you're going to go through chapter 4 through 21, 22. And the church is not going to be mentioned. Okay? Now, another thing, you say, well, since the church is not mentioned, this study of the book of Revelations is about the church not being in the rapture. It's not what Revelations is about. Revelations is about a vision that John sees concerning the Jews. We're not in here. If we don't believe the church is going to be in here, so in actuality, Revelation has nothing to do with the church. We're not even here. It has everything to do with Israel, because this is described as a time of whose trouble? Jacob. Was Jacob Jew or Gentile? Jew. So back during the Old Testament, was there such thing as a church? No. So the rapture is all about the nation of Israel. Keep that in mind. Now, there are two types of opinions that on this, and we've looked at them. Says the church. Now, this is what we think, what we believe. Is the church going to go through the tribulation? I don't believe it will. Now, you got to be careful when I'm fixing to say this. Don't get mad at me. If we're studying Revelation, it says, after these things, I looked up and a door was open. Some people say, well, that's the church being raptured out. Does it say that? What is he talking about? He is talking about a vision. So chapter 4 is about a vision that John is going to see. Come on, everybody. It's about a vision that John is going to see. All right? Now, you remember studying. I don't have any notes passed out, so you're in good shape. Things that has been, things which are, and things which shall be. The has been, chapter 1, is the vision. Which are, is the letters to the church 2 and 3, and which shall be 4 through 22. And remember, that's in chapter 1 several times. So now we are at which shall be, future events. Okay? Now, and chapter 4 through 5 is a prologue up to verses for chapter 6 through 22. Chapter 6 through 22 is basically dealing with Israel, the tribulation, how God's going to bring the nation back to Him. And of course, the last part is the promise of a bright future. Because when you study, actually, chapter 6 onward, it doesn't seem very bright. It's destruction. Nearly all of the world is going to be destroyed. No fish in the ocean, no nothing, no water or anything. But we'll get into that later. But this is described as Jacob's trouble. Also, if you're studying the tribulation, a lot of people do like to study the tribulation. If you go to Matthew chapter 24. Matthew chapter 24 and 25. We're not going to read them. But Matthew chapter 24 and 25, and when the disciples asked Jesus Christ when He departs from the temple, and His disciples say, okay, when is these things going to be? And Jesus Christ begins to start telling them, this is what it's going to be like. This is talking about tribulation, because I want you to look what it says in verse 15. When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let him which be in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. If you want to know what the tribulation is going to be like, here it is. This is I will give you just a foundation of what the tribulation is going to be like, okay? We'll get into this later. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes, and woe unto them that are with child, and to them which give suck in those days. But pray that your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath day. All right. The Sabbath day was an Old Testament law, right? Don't do anything on the Sabbath day. Who does that refer to? It's not to the Jews. So who is he talking to in chapter 24, 15 through 20? Say it. The Jews. Okay? 4:21. Then shall there be what? Great tribulation. This is to the Jews. The book of Matthew is not a Gentile book. It is a Jewish book. Okay? chapter 24 and 25 is to the Jews. He's talking about the Jews. The disciples, remember, at this time they're asking him this, they care less about a bunch of Gentiles. Even Peter, remember Cornelius, Peter's like, I don't want to go talk to him. So this is not, he's not talking about a bunch of Gentiles. This is the Jewish nation, this is Israel. And he's telling the nation of Israel, you better hope this does not happen during the wintertime, because you're going to freeze to death. And you better hope it's not on the Sabbath, because you're going to steal. What do the Jews still observe? Old Testament law. They still do that. You can go, I got a Crystal's brother, when he went to do his time several years ago, he was in the green zone for the last, what was the last war we had over there in Iraq? Tells you how much. It wasn't Desert Storm, it was what?
It wasn't Desert Storm.
Well, it wasn't Desert Storm. It was the one just previous when they killed Saddam. My brother-in-law was over there. And he said, what? Operations. Something like Gulf Freedom, something. Operation Freedom, I don't know.
Maybe Gulf Storm. Yeah, maybe that was it.
I reckon freedom.
I don't know. But anyway, he said a lot of that, he would talk, there was some Jews and stuff that was over there with the Israeli army and stuff like that. And they was telling him some stories about what they do different on the Sabbath. If they're going to take an elevator, they make sure a Gentile goes with them so he can push the buttons. I'm serious. And if they're going to use the telephone, they'll say, hey man, can you do me a favor, dial that number for me? And when you dial it, let me talk to them. They still observe that. So he thought it was odd. Get in the elevator like you push the buttons. Why? I'd just rather you're a Gentile. But he is telling them, for that shall be a great tribulation. Now this is the way the great tribulation is going to fall. Such as was not like since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall there be. Now remember, one of the greatest tragedies was not the Titanic. One of the greatest tragedies was taking place when God floods the world. And he was saying basically, what's going to happen over these next 7 years is going to make that look like a Sunday school picnic. And the thing that happened during the flood, how many people survived it? 8? I mean, the Great Tribulation, how much more worse can that be? He says, in this day there shall be a great tribulation. Such was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor there shall ever be. This is interesting, verse 22. And except those days should be shortened. That tribulation cannot be a long time. And this is the reason. There should be no flesh to be saved. He says if this thing goes out for a long period of time, everybody's going to die on earth. Everyone. And he says there shall be saved. But for the elect's sake, these days shall be shortened. For the sake of Israel. Since Matthew is a Jewish book. All right? That's going to kind of give you a building block of what the tribulation is going to be like. Now, it is described as Jacob's trouble. It is not described as the name of Gentile. Luke. He's a Gentile, he's a Greek. It's a Jewish... It is God bringing the nation back to Him. Do you remember... of course, you should Noah's Ark. Was there any Gentile? And people will say, and this is how I see it. They say, well, the ark, that little boat that floated around, is a type of salvation. No. That's for the Jews. What was on the ark? Jews. Okay? Jews.
How can they be Jews? Jews really starts with Abraham.
Well, pre-Jews.
Okay.
Okay? Because you're only going to come from two descendants. You're going to come from Abraham, and you're going to come from Isaac and Jacob. And they're going to be in the lineage of Noah. All right? So, that is it. So, no Gentiles. In my opinion, that ark is a type of God sealing the Jews in the Great Tribulation. All right? Now, where am I at? The church. There's 4 definitions for the church you have to remember, okay? 4 definitions for the church. Most of them is going to be found in Acts. The last one is going to be found in Revelations. Acts is actually, when he uses the word church, he uses it in 3 different situations. Basically, it's for an assembly of people. an assembly. Second definition is going to be an assembly of Christians in general. All right? And then the third definition is a specific is a specific church. All right? Like we were studying in chapter 2 and 3, specific churches. And in chapter 4, it is God's bride, not just buildings where people assemble. Okay? So there's 4. The church is not mentioned. All right? I had a buddy of mine, I've probably told you this story. They said, well, I don't believe people's going to get saved during the tribulation. Well, you know, he sees all those people and those 144,000 go out. And he said, you believe people's going to be saved during the tribulation? I said, I believe they are. And he got, why? I thought, why are you getting mad? I mean, if people get saved, great. You know? So don't get upset. Don't get upset that people's going to get saved. All right, now, when you get to chapter 4, it says, after I looked, behold, there was a door open. If you look in verse 20, chapter 3, there is a mention of a door. But is that door open or closed?
It has to be closed because he's not.
Knocking. So the church is closed to Christ, but Christ's door to heaven is open to the church. Okay? So now we have a door that is closed, but now we have a door that is open. After this, I looked, and behold, the door was opened in heaven. All right? And the first voice which I heard was as a trumpet talking with me, which said, come up hither, and I will show you these things which must be hereafter. What things? Things that he's fixing to see. It's going to be future. And immediately, this is interesting, I was taken in the spirit. Not bodily, but spirit. You remember that movie that came out 3-4 years ago about that little boy that dies and goes to heaven?
Yeah.
He didn't die and go to heaven. There's 2 people that's ever went to heaven. You know who it was? Paul and John. And Paul says, I went there and I seen things that I could not even write about or speak about. All right? So what makes you think God's going to bring a little 11-year-old boy up to heaven and say, I want you to go back, I want you to tell him all about this? He's not going to do it. All right? If he's not going to let the Apostle Paul write about things he's seen, he's not going to let an 11-year-old boy do it. Okay? Now, he says, there was a voice that I heard. It was like a trumpet. Trumpet is a sound of authority. What did the children of Israel blow to make the walls of Jericho come down? What was it? They shouted. They blew trumpets, ram's horns. That was a sign of authority. It's a sign of war. Okay? Now, and immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne. What is the first thing he is going to see? He's going to hear something, and he's going to see something. He is going to hear a voice, and he is going to see a throne. So what is heaven all about? The throne. Who sits on the throne? Besides God. If on earth, what sits on the throne? Kings. Who is Jesus Christ? Our King. What is he sitting on? A throne. All right? Now, this throne is going to be in a temple. We'll look at that later. All right? I don't want to jump ahead. And immediately I was in the Spirit. Behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat upon the throne. You remember in Isaiah, don't go there, I will. Isaiah chapter 6. Isaiah chapter 6. It says, in the year King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a what? Throne. All right? High and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Remember, King Uzziah had already died. And it says, and it stood, the seraphims, each had 6 wings, twain covered the face, feet, and they did fly. And one cried unto another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is filled, full of his glory. And the post of the door, there's that door again. It's the same door, probably, that's going to open up for John, moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Then I said, this is what happens when Isaiah comes into a vision of this. He says, woe is me. He sees how sinful he is. When you come before the Lord, you actually see how sinful you are. It says, I said, woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips. Okay? Now, if you look now in Revelation chapter 4 says, after this I looked, and there was a door opened. All right? He hears a voice, sound of trumpet, come up hither, and I want to show you some things. And immediately I was in the Spirit, behold, a throne was set into heaven, and one that sat on the throne. All right? And this is what he says. And he that sat was to look upon like jasper. That is also, I looked that up, and it's almost a clear, almost diamond-like, and it's a reflection of God's glory. To look was like a jasper, okay, and a sardine, which is, I looked it up in Strong's, and it means red, fiery red, talking about his wrath. In Daniel chapter 7, verse 9, it talks about, let me see if I can find it. We went right to it. Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. And behold, till the thrones were cast down, and the ancient days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and his hair was a head of like the pure wool. This is Daniel 7, 9. His throne was like the fiery flame, and the wheels as burning fire. So the sardine, fire, judgment, and there was a rainbow. What is the last time we talked about? When is the first rainbow mentioned? What was it a promise of? Okay, this is a type of God keeping his promises. But it was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto the emerald. There are 6 or 7. Is it 6 or 7 colors of the rainbow? Is it 7? 7. The only color that John is going to see is a green emerald, color of this rainbow. So the first thing John is going to see when he comes up into heaven, he is going to hear, and then he is going to see. He's going to hear authority, and he is going to see authority. A throne, all right, is authority. And the only person that can sit on the throne, of course, is God. Now, and round about the throne, okay, were 24 seats. They are not on the throne, they are around the throne. These are not other thrones. These are seats. And upon the seats I saw 24 elders. It means clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold, which speaks of authority. If you go to 1 Chronicles chapter 24, don't just write it down. If I ever say go to it, don't do it, just write it down. So I don't want to put cause. You will get the 24 divisions of the priest. And these are the divisions of the sons of Aaron. And it gives you 24 divisions of the priest. And this is 1 Chronicles chapter 24. Which is what he sees is who is the highest ranking official back during the Old Testament. It's the high priest. And what lineage did he have to come from? Aaron. He was a Levite. Came from Aaron. All right. So he looks on the throne. He's seen 24 elders, seats upon the seats. And I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment. They're pure, and they had on their heads, they were authority. All right. And the priest, the Old Testament priest during this time, had authority. Okay. You remember when Jesus Christ is going to be taken before, the first person they take him to is going to be the high priest. All right. Because they still had authority back during the time of Jesus Christ, and especially during the Old Testament. So he looks and he sees these elders of a church. Not people who are young, people who have knowledge, people who have wisdom. All right? Clothed. And they had on their heads crowns of gold. And out of the throne, everything is pointing to what? A throne. So what's heaven about? A throne. It's about Jesus. It's not about going to see Mama and Papa that died 50 years ago and hanging out with them by dipping your toes in the river of life. It's about God. It's about a throne. All right? And out of the throne, it continuously comes out. This is not around it. It is proceeding out. So whoever is sitting on the throne has authority over this, okay? This is not happening by itself. Out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings. Do you remember? I don't know if we went over this when we was going in Exodus. You guys might remember when the children of Israel, when God told Moses, "Hey, you need to go give the children of Israel some instructions. You're going to kind of cordon off the mountain so they can't come past it, and they better not come past those gates, or because if they do, I'm going to kill them." And when when God descended down off the mountain, He descended. It was thunderings and lightnings. So when Jesus Christ makes His way down that mountain in the book of Exodus, it is thunderings and lightnings. The same God that is in Exodus is the same God that is in Revelations, and it is the same God that is in what? 2017. So, out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices. And there were 7 lamps of burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God, which can be found in Isaiah chapter 11. Don't go there. I will. I think it's in Isaiah chapter 11. Isaiah 11:2, and the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him. And he gives wisdom, understanding, counsel, might, knowledge, and the fear of the Lord. Okay? And those are the 7 spirits that he also sees. So far, we see the word throne. Let me count. 1, 2, 3 times. Oh, here's another one in verse 6. And before the throne, notice there's nobody on the throne except one person. Everything else is around the throne, right? And before the throne, there was a sea of glass, like unto crystal. It is clear crystal in the midst of the throne, and around about the throne were 4 beasts. These are also going to be found in Ezekiel. 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. It means there is nothing that's going to escape them. Okay? Nothing's going to escape them. These 4 beasts. You remember in Isaiah chapter 6, what was the cherubims doing? Holy, holy, holy.
Praising God.
Praising God. These things are going to be praising God. So it tells me in verse 8, I don't want to get into that right now, holy, holy, holy. But in Isaiah also, holy, holy, holy. They're praising God. These are not they don't pop up out of the blue. These are created by God. And they are created by God so that they might worship him and bring him glory. And they shall worship him. And they're going to be holy, holy, holy. So that tells you heaven is going to be a place of worship to that one that is sitting on the throne. All right, now, it's got 4 beasts. This is why I wrote this up there. There's others. I didn't want to arrest TJ's pretty stuff on the back. So I don't want to hear him come down here Sunday morning and go, Watkins erased my stuff. But anyway, he's got 4 beasts, and they're full of eyes. They're everywhere. They can see everything, these beasts. And it actually means living creature. If you look it up in the Greek, it means living creature. The word beast. When we think of the word beast, we think of something wild and untamed and could tear your throat out. These are living creatures. These are animals. And the first beast was like. Not it was like. Okay, because Revelations is, John is seeing things that nobody's ever seen. And he's only using the best words he knows to describe what he is seeing. All right? Imagine back in 1800. You go driving through town in a car. How are they going to describe? This guy come on an electric horse. No, it wasn't no electrician. This guy came in and had a horse and it had round things on wheels. You know, that's the only way they can describe a car. That was the old man that I worked with. He said, I remember the first time he said, I seen a telephone pole. I thought it was just a bunch of creosote posts thrown up in the yard. So John is describing what he has seen in the best words he knows how. I seen a beast which was like a lion. Now, you remember, I don't know if we studied this in Exodus, when they set up the camp around the tabernacle of Moses in the desert or in the wilderness. They set them up east, west, south, north. And these are how the tribes would set up. The lion was represented by the tribe of Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun, which is in the east. The calf or an ox was set up on the west with these tribes, Manasseh, Benjamin, Ephraim. And then you have the man, it is a beast that has the vision of a face of a man, which was south, which is Reuben, Simeon, and Gad. And then on the north, which was a type of an eagle, that was a symbol for Dan, Asher, and Naphtali. All right? Okay, now. It says the first beast was like a lion. The second beast was like a calf. That's also can be translated as an ox. The third is like a man. And then the fourth is going to be like a flying eagle. All right? And those are those, okay? So if you when you get home, you get on the internet and look up Tabernacle in the Wilderness, and it'll show you how they set up around. I may have gave you guys one, I'm not sure. All right, now, and the four beasts each had 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within, and they rest not night or day. And this is the only job they had. Holy, holy, holy. They're praising God. Lord God Almighty, which, here it is, was, is, and is to come. But what are they doing? They are worshiping God. And they are worshiping God, and they are worshiping God that was, that is, and that is to come. It is a constant worship. It is a continual worship. There is no stopping this worship, okay? And it says the 4 beasts, they had wings, and they were full of eyes. No, not night or day, they continuously worship God. Do we do that? No. These creatures did. Verse 9. And when those beasts give glory and honor, and when those beasts give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever. It's all about God, isn't it? And when those beasts gave glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever. And the 24 elders, again we're back to them, fall down before him that sat on the throne. Wow. A lot of emphasis on that person on the throne, isn't it? And what are they doing? So far we know that in the book of Isaiah, they are worshiping God. Holy, holy, holy. And now we know in verse 8 of chapter 4, they are holy, holy, holy. And now in chapter 4, verse 10, what are they doing? Worshiping him. There again, I go back to my previous point. What is heaven going to be about? Worshiping God. And they worship him that liveth forever and ever. Those crowns that they have, they're going to cast before the throne. And this is what they are going to say. 24 elders. Okay? Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power. For thou hast created all things. Those things that are flying around that person sitting on the throne, they are giving him power, they are giving him glory, they are giving him honor, and they are saying, you have created things for thy pleasure. They are and were created for God's pleasure. But for God's pleasure is they are going to worship him. That is what the pleasure is of these beasts, the 24 elders that sat beside the throne. Okay? The elders of the church. So far in chapter 4, we have seen a throne. I'm not going to get into chapter 5 on the way. We've seen a throne, we have seen 24 elders, and then we've seen 4 beasts. And what the 24 elders and the 4 beasts are doing to that person on the throne is worshiping him. That's all they're doing. What are we going to be doing? Worshiping Christ, the one that sits on that throne. It's amazing to me that what John is saying, he is going to be seeing a Jesus that he did not see on earth. The Jesus he's seen on earth was the Jesus that said, let not your hearts be troubled, believe in God, believe also in me. Comforting words, loving words. That's the Jesus that John's familiar with, isn't it? He's going to see a totally different type of Jesus, type of God. He's going to see a God that is not going to be saying, let not your hearts be troubled. But what's amazing, what John is seeing in chapter 4 is the same thing that Jesus told him he was going to see in chapter 14 of the book of John. What John is seeing is what Jesus told him. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. You know what John's looking at? That place that God's preparing for us. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you for myself, that where I am, that you may be also. What John heard there on that Passover night, John is actually getting to see now up in the Spirit. So all these years have passed by for John. He was young when Jesus Christ told him this in John chapter 14. Now John's an old man. And now what Jesus Christ told him in John chapter 14, verse 1 through 3, I'm going to prepare a place. John is actually going to get to see this place that has been prepared for him. What is God doing up in heaven for us right now? Preparing a place. And can we believe that? Because Jesus Christ says, if it were not true, I would have told you. Heavenly Father, we love you. We thank you because you loved us when we were unlovable. Still, God, we are. Dear God, I want to thank you for the prayer request that we heard, dear God, and we lift them up to you. Dear God, before that throne that John is seeing, before that throne with the 24 elders, and before that throne with the 4 beasts, dear God, circle, and they worship you continuously. Dear God, we lay these prayer requests down at your feet. We ask, dear God, not that our will, but your will be done. For this church, dear God, we ask you just to bring us close together. And dear God, we want to thank you for everything you've done for us. In your name we pray. Amen. Before you leave, February, is it next Wednesday night?
15th.
This coming Wednesday night?
Yes.
Debbie Nichols. Is it Nichols? Yeah, Debbie Nichols. Oh, that's correct. I'm saying that was last name.